All right, it is 7 o'clock on the dot. Let's get started.
Woohoo!
Um, you all should have received the agenda. Uh, Candidates aren't speaking tonight um, because you need to hear from more than just a 1 or 2 minute bullshit pitch. So our goal has always been to get you access to the candidates, to get you engaged in interacting with the candidates, asking the hard questions, and really engaging with these people that our lives depend on. So I hope you've all done that. Um, and we're going to get started. Um, I want to acknowledge our other county caucus leaders and members. Uh, Fred Grondell, he is the chair of the Salt Lake County Caucus. And I'm just looking at random names here. Jaron is the chair of our Weber County Caucus. There's Jaron rolling in his Mercedes. Aaron is the chair of the Utah County Caucus, and I am super, super proud and just amazed at these individuals that created the Utah County and Weber County caucuses last year, and have done some amazing work recruiting candidates and building their caucus infrastructure up. And so I just total props to them for doing that. Annie Glade is here, um, and she became the is it Duchesne County Party Chair.
Yep.
It's like holy and I will tell you a funny story about Annie and I. We kind of met on Twitter somewhere. I was calling out
Yeah.
somebody for something, and she said, "Well, what are you doing about it?" So I told her, and she's like, "Hey, I want to do that too." So she stood up and and she said this. Uh, she said, "Oh, I can't be the party chair. All I do is go out and tell people to vote and get involved." And I said, "That's exactly who we need." So awesome, Annie. Thank you for
Yeah,
showing up.
thank you for your guidance and help with all that.
No,
And
it's been
mentorship.
an absolute pleasure meeting and mentoring and helping people get involved in this process that uh, really like our lives depend on this stuff, and it's not taking t seriously enough uh, by a lot of people who claim to represent us. So I appreciate everyone showing up. Um, okay, county acknowledgements. The other thing, it was a misquote. I didn't mean to say state caucus uh, meeting. I meant to say state convention meeting. So our state convention is the 25th. We're meeting in room 2 at 10 a.m., I believe. Yes, room 2.
Mitch,
Yes.
those room numbers don't matter right now. All that matters
Okay.
is your time slot.
You heard it from Jennifer. The rooms don't matter, but they're going to matter. Um, we're meeting and we're going to meet to celebrate because we've done amazing things this past year. We're getting rid of our endorsements tonight, so all we need to do is show up and vote and relax and have a good time. And so I'll be bringing some donuts. Anyone else want to bring something? And just, all right. Who
Anyone
do I
else
have to
getting
mute
an
to?
echo?
Um, Anyway, so our convention meeting, there's no business taking place. We're just going to convene and rub shoulders and have a good time. To that end, I'm going to put a link in the chat because our awesome um, Summit County progressive stalwart Terry Goodall is needing more volunteers at convention. So I just put a link in there. It's a Google Doc link. Celeste, you were
Thank
getting
you.
the echo. I had
Thank
to mute
you.
you.
But,
Absolutely.
you need to move me back to my county. You were in my county last week.
I know. I
Thank you
always
for
think, I
coming
just
last
think
week.
it's the default. I have to
Wasatch.
pass through Summit to get to Wasatch.
No, we're in Wasatch. Hey, thanks, and thanks for promoting the volunteer
Yeah.
forum there. Yeah, we still need a lot of help, people. So if you can do anything, please take a look at the form.
Yeah. If you're a new delegate or new to the process, hey, jump in and continue to figure this whole wonderful circus out because it is a lot of fun and you meet amazing, amazing people. Let's see. I think that is it. There was a question about the meetings being online from Kimberly Clark. I'm not sure which meetings. Our meetings are monthly meetings are the third Wednesday of every month, like right now at 7 p.m., and they are on Zoom. This is actually my least favorite meeting of everything we do because we get 100 people showing up at these meetings, which is amazing. And then after that, we get like 14. And the other months, we have tons of stuff to do. This is just a candidate night, but we are organizing, we are rallying, we are creating caucus action, and we've got stuff to do every month. So I would encourage all of you, if this is your first meeting, come back next month and the next month, and let's keep momentum in this movement. Third Wednesdays. Did I say something incorrect? That is probably the case. All righty. So if you've all read the emails, we have contested races, and we have a list of candidates who have requested endorsements in those races. On the contested races, we're going to open up the floor for a maximum of 3 questions for the candidates tonight. And then this meeting will be over. After the meeting, our voting members will each receive an email ballot. It's a ranked choice ballot, especially if there's more than 2 candidates. We are adding to every race on the ballot an abstain. And you're welcome to use the abstain if you don't know the candidate or don't live in the House district. I mean, use it as you want. There will also be a no endorsement. Now, the abstention vote will not count against a no endorsement vote. It's not the same thing. So your ballot will have the candidates requesting the endorsements, and then an abstention and a no candidate. Fred.
Mitch, did you get a chance to see that test ballot I sent to you?
No.
It's exactly the way you describe it.
Look how good I am.
Well,
I'll have to look for it. I don't see any email, but it might be in junk.
okay.
But anyway, Fred and I will make sure that the ballot is accurate, complete, and sent to our voting members after this meeting. And then we're going to go to sleep. Then in the morning, we're going to wake up and we're going to look at the results, and then we're going to contact the candidates. We've got a little graphic you're welcome to use. You're welcome not to use it as well. And we'll go from there. Tyler, you've got a question.
Yeah, I'm here with Ian too, and he wants to say something because his phone is not working.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So on my responses, I think I marked that I would accept PAC money. And I just wanted to say I have changed that answer, and I wanted to briefly explain why, if you give me the chance.
Okay. Well, people might look at that and go, "What the hell, Ian?"
Yeah.
And then you might say,
W-
"The good packs," and then we'll say,
Well,
"Oh,
it's
well,
not about the good packs. Here was my logic. My logic was,
I'm going to have you hold that thought." Someone will ask that question.
okay.
But thanks for speaking up. Okay. That being said, we're going to start at the list that I created, and our first contested race, we have two candidates in Utah Senate District 5. We have Dakota Worth and CJ Hernandez. Um, so we'll start with Dakota Worth. Does anybody have any questions for Dakota?
You guys have to have something.
One question. His favorite ice cream.
Play-Doh.
I'll ask
Okay.
a question.
Okay.
Mustafa has his hands up though too.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we've got
No, I know that our foreign policy will not be involved in your role as a candidate in your place.
Senate,
Senate
District 5.
Senate District 5, it doesn't have anything to do with foreign policy. But your input or your thoughts on our foreign policy would make me make a decision on your on how I'll vote.
So just a general foreign policy question, because I'll start by saying I disagree a little bit. Because Senate District 5 encompasses all of Hill Air Force Base, foreign policy actually impacts this district significantly. So I have great concerns and have basically my entire adult life with the US participating in foreign wars while people are starving at home, don't have access to basic needs, healthcare, and the like, and supporting a genocide abroad and being the aggressor in Iran. That puts people in my community, in my city where I'm a city council member, in danger, and it inflates the national debt and just proliferates the problems that we have as a country and reduces our standing on the international stage.
Much.
Thank you, Dakota. Evan Doan, you have a question.
Yeah, from one LGBTQ candidate to another, I wanted to ask like a little bit about yeah, just your process in running, and then also the importance of that representation in the state Senate. Could you speak to that?
I definitely can. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Davis County's first ever openly gay elected official. I think the cool thing about that is I was raised in East Layton in the district that's now represented by Trevor Lee. And it's both a conversation about representation on identity, but also demographically as a young person. So when I ran for city council, I was able to buy a home and I put down some roots and looked at a community that looked a lot like me, but had local leaders that looked nothing like that community with an average age of 62. And in the state Senate, there's no openly gay elected officials. The Ogden area actually has a large population of LGBTQ plus people and is one of the youngest districts in the state, comparatively speaking, with a median age of 33. And there's so much political apathy in our system that dissuades people like me and my friends and my generation from participating in this process and ensuring that their rights are represented in public policy. So I think it's important that we have someone in the state Senate that looks like the district that they are running to represent.
Thank you, Dakota. We have a couple hands up, but we've only got one more question, and Brad was next in line. So, Brad, you have a question? Brad,
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay?
we can hear you. Not okay, but we can hear you.
Okay, well, I'll try to do my best. So, Dakota, you mentioned that Hill Air Force Base is in your district. I'm afraid that there's a temptation to moderate your message for that audience. What is your most progressive value that you would proudly state to any voter, whether or not it's what they want to hear?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll preface this by saying I think the biggest mistake we make as Democrats running in historically conservative districts is the pressure to moderate, to, persuade Republicans that are not going to come over on that basis. And I think as I've talked to so many voters when I've ran for city council through this race so far, I'm unapologetically progressive on the need to invest in a public option for healthcare. In the absence of public sector jobs in this district, the biggest way that people can obtain generational wealth outside of owning their own home is having the opportunity to start their own business or organize in their workplace. And in the most entrepreneurial state in the nation, we don't have a lot of opportunities around healthcare to allow people to start businesses and participate in the economy in that manner. And, providing that public option in the absence of a federal universal healthcare system is one way that we can absolutely do that, and we can shift our funding priorities to make that happen.
Lovely. Well said. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for
Okay.
the great questions.
Yeah. CJ Hernandez, you are up. Who has questions for CJ?
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, we have Tyler. Tyler's ready to grill you. You ready?
Mhm.
Let's go, Tyler. How
Hi,
are you?
good. How are you?
Good.
So my question, because you will be in the state legislature, is related to youth mental health in the state of Utah. Suicide is the leading cause of death for individuals in that category. So 14 to about 18 years old. And we've seen a lot of catastrophic things come out of the Utah state legislature lately that is only exacerbating that. So what would you focus one piece of legislation on to decrease the suicide rate of adolescents in the state?
That's a wonderful question. I've actually had people in my own family that have gone through that situation and attempted suicide, so it's very close to my heart. And I found out very quickly, sorry, it was very close to my heart. I found out very quickly the lack of resources that we have. You're hitting it spot on, Tyler. Part of the healthcare package has got to be increasing services in mental health care early and often, allowing access. We do not have enough trained professionals. We're not encouraging providing bonuses for those kind of professions. There's just not a community support around that. But more importantly, there's not a legislative support or funding for that. And I think that's something we absolutely need to change.
Thank you.
Lovely. Okay. Who's next to take on CJ?
Okay, God. Foreign policy. Come on, that was an easy one.
You're welcome to speak to that if you'd like.
I'm having a problem understanding her. I don't know if it's my microphone or hers. Is anyone else
CJ's
having a hard time?
CJ's
I was gonna
microphone
say
is
this.
a little quiet.
Yeah.
Okay. Let
But
me switch.
it sounds garbled.
It is a little
Better?
quiet.
Hold on.
Not much better.
Is that better?
That is a little better.
I don't know how to make my hand raise. This is Kim James. Can I ask a question for CJ?
Yes, you may. Kim, go ahead.
Okay. CJ, tell us what it would mean to have a woman elected to be in the Senate District 5 position.
Well, as you know, we're running against a woman, Jill Coford, and we need better representation. There are women in the Senate, but not all of them are progressive, as we can tell. They're running anti-women bills left and right, against abortion, health rights, etc., even defunding the Boulder Way Forward. We need to push back on those things. We need to have more women there, more progressive women that are focused on family, education, and healthcare. And I think this is a very important race. We can flip it. And so thanks for the question, Kim.
Awesome. All right. If there are no more questions for CJ, our next contested race is U.S. Congressional District 2. So we've got 4 candidates there: Tyler Farnsworth, Jerem Gillens, Ian Parrish, and Peter Crosby. So we're going to start with Tyler. Who has questions for Tyler? While we're waiting for questions for Tyler.
I have a question.
Okay, I'll get to you, Kale, and I'll get to you, Jaron. I just have to tell you something. For the first time in, I don't know, since COVID, I just had to upgrade our Zoom account because we were at capacity. So, proud moment. Okay. Jaron, you've got a question, and then Kale, you're next. Jaron, go.
Is he muted?
Okay. Is this better?
That's a little better. Speak really
Okay.
close.
Yeah, my main question to Tyler, you were running originally CD1 when the maps didn't change. I'm curious, for someone who lives a little bit closer to Salt Lake area, why are you the best candidate for Ogden area and more of the rural northern mountains?
Sure, great question. I am the best candidate because throughout my entire adult life, I have worked in areas that I am not familiar with, comfortable with, and that was one of the best things about being a nurse was you could switch in and out of specialties, especially leadership positions. And I learned that you don't have to have full knowledge by being immersed in that in the beginning. The way that you gain that knowledge is being immersed while you're leading and having everyone around you help you lead. And that's exactly how I would represent in Congress is everyone I know and love lives in Davis County. I have met wonderful people throughout this race. Rural Utah is something that's very important to me because I grew up in a very rural area. So I am the best candidate because I know how to engage with all members of the community, even if I don't look like them, sound like them, talk like them, to elevate their voices as their leader.
Thank you. Kale, you were next.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler, for running and all the candidates for running. And thank you for joining our rural caucus for an hour and a half. The question I have is, given that we've got a supermajority basically at all levels, how would you, on the issue of public lands, take on Mike Lee and make sure he doesn't try and sell our land out from under our feet? Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't get myself unmuted. Yeah, that's a really great question. And public lands are a big part of my platform. Public lands are very important to me across the whole country, but especially here in Utah. I would work very hard with other members of the congressional caucus for public lands to ensure that even if Mike Lee introduces bills, that they do not pass the House. One of the more effective ways to be a member of Congress, even if the Republicans remain a supermajority, is to kill bills that come through that are bad for public lands in Utah. If we were able to flip the House back to Democrat, I have talked to some individuals throughout rural Utah about exploring options of putting public lands like the national parks in trusts for the communities that also involve the tribal communities, so that attacks on public lands don't just have to go through one or two senators, but they would have to go through the trust of the public as well, so that we have an extra safeguard for those.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have room for one more question. Gail and Mustafa were next, so I'll give the mic to them.
Yeah, as I understood, there is 4 people running for the same seat in your district. Yeah. Are you going to concede for somebody who wins the nomination or not? When it comes to the finals, to the final elections, are you running against any Republicans there?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused. Concede at convention or election? What do you?
At
No, the
convention.
election. In the end,
not at the convention, if somebody is getting the nomination and he have more chance than you, would you concede for him?
So none of us gathered signatures, so there would only be one of us chosen at convention. So I mean, I wouldn't fight the vote. Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. But good question though. Sorry, I didn't quite understand in the beginning.
Yeah, because I really believe in us as progressive to back each other and to be good.
Totally. Great question. Thank you.
Let's be good. I love it.
Mm.
Thank you, Mustafa. Okay, we're going to move on. Jerem Gillens, are you here? Jerem? Okay. He applied for endorsement, so he will still be on the ballot. Ian Parrish, are you here? I have
Yep,
three.
I'm back.
There you are. Is that Ian?
Yeah, Ian's here.
Okay, great. Questions for Ian. David Chappelle, you still got a hand up for Ian? Nope.
Sorry, my
Was
question
that for me, I guess? Oh, sorry.
My question was for Tyler. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
I can come up with a question. I'm trying to think of what.
Okay, hang on. David Lawrence, you have a question.
Yeah, so I was hoping to get an answer from Tyler as well. But if we can't, if we need to move on, that's okay. But I was curious, given that this is for a seat in the House of Representatives, and given what we've seen as far as or at least as far as what I see as a lack of leadership in the Democrats at the national level, who would be your choice for the Speaker of the House? Or if you don't have someone who is you can name as a specific choice, what would be the process that you would want to go through to choose that person, or what would you want to see in that person?
Well, I think what I would want to see from that person really is what we're missing in Washington generally. And I think that is standing on principles. I think that it's being unapologetic about your stand and still striving to find unity where you can. I think that oftentimes we can get into very divisive politics and lose sight of what we have in common and be able to find solutions together. But by the same token, I think that there have been instances within our own party in particular where some Congress people may have been a little mealy-mouthed and aren't willing to call a spade just because they're afraid it'll hurt them politically. So I think, taking a stand where you need and leading with conviction is a good place to start.
Thank you. Tanya, do you have a question?
I wanted to ask my question of Peter Crosby, but I can ask it whoever's taking a question right now.
Okay. Well, right now
Yeah,
it's.
I'm happy to take it.
Okay, so right now there are like Congress people resigning with scandals. We have the president in the White House who, we all know his history. I guess I just would like to know, everyone, like the Supreme Court and, women being just dismissed. And then here we have, invested our energy, maybe even our money and time into certain candidates, and then inevitably something comes out, and not to point a finger at anybody in particular, but it's a trend at the moment, which I think may be a good thing. But if we could just like weed ourselves out before we get there. And if any of you would like to comment on, you know, the decent treatment of women in society. Thank you.
Well, I think that what we've seen consistently, time and time again, is a rape culture that has just persisted to a systemic level. I mean, it's just disgusting that of what two people that went to prison over the Epstein files, one of them was a woman, and there were 1,000 victims, over 1,000 victims with billionaires. That were involved, and none of them have gone to prison. And so I think we need to get our justice for women. I think we need to believe women and elevate those voices and make them feel safe and comfortable to express those issues. I mean, we saw Eric Swalwell abuse his authority and his power to take advantage of his staffers. And apparently everybody knew that on DC, on Capitol Hill for years. And I think that we need to end that culture, and as representatives stand up within our own party. When we see that, we call it out and we expel it from the party, and we cure the disease that we find.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl Ingwell, last question.
Yeah. Hey, Ian, I have a question for you. So I saw in your responses that you marked down that you would be willing to take PAC money, and I understand that you might have changed your stance on that. Could you give me some more information on PAC money and whether you're willing to accept that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I don't believe in their good PACs. I believe that money is a corrupting influence, and I am dedicated to getting it out of politics. And the reason why I initially may have been open to accepting PAC money is if APAC or whomever is dumb enough to spend their money on me so I can use it for a righteous cause, I thought that it may be worth it. But ultimately I decided I believe that the message and the power is with the people, and the power is with the message. And that I think that if I believe that money has that corrupting influence and doesn't have a place in politics, then I need to set an example and stand up for that. And so I have made that commitment, and I have made the Integrity Index pledge to that effect, that I will not accept any PAC money whatsoever.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. The questions are awesome. The answers are even awesomer. And we got a couple more. So Peter Crosby is our last candidate online for US CD2. So questions for Peter. I'm going to start with Liz Kawaguchi.
Hey, you said it right. All right, so this question kind of goes for everybody running for District 2. So even if you can't answer, maybe think about what your answer would be. I'm a history nerd. The way that our country handled the Reconstruction era after the Civil War, gentleman's handshake, all of that stuff. Clearly, we're in an era where gentleman's handshake doesn't mean anything anymore. So, my question is, what are you going to do to hold accountability for the hundreds of people that need to be, thousands of people need to be held accountable in this current administration? Thank you.
I always like talking to another history nerd, and I would say that Reconstruction, a lot of the problems in the country that we have right now actually could be traced back to the fact that we did not do Reconstruction correctly. We didn't hold the South responsible for slavery to the extent that we should have, and we are now paying the price of that particular set of decisions. Accountability is very much framed around what are you actually willing to do? What are you willing to say? Accountability for this current administration looks like three separate things. It looks like budget restrictions, because Congress has the power of the purse. It looks like oversight hearings. So actually calling the officials in and saying, okay, you're the head of ICE, you're the head of Department of Homeland Security, you're the Attorney General, you're the Secretary of Defense. You're not acting in a constitutional manner, you're not acting in a lawful manner. Justify your actions. And then if they can't, which they can't, then we go ahead and impeach them and remove them from office. The president has the constitutional power to appoint whatever executive cabinet officials they would like. That's fine. Donald Trump can appoint whoever he wants. If that person refuses to follow the law, I am under obligation to make sure that they don't stay in that cabinet position. And that's really like the start and end of that conversation. That does require a Democratic House, right? It requires a House that has a Democratic majority so we can host those and hold those oversight hearings. And so we can start impeachment process when necessary, when the executive officials are not doing their constitutional responsibility. And that's why this is the year, right? This is the year to get out there, to get motivated, to be energized, and to do the work necessary to turn the House and the Senate blue.
Lovely. Thank you. Next question we'll take from Kimberly Clark.
Okay, I'm from Carbon County, and my question I'd like to pose to, I guess, all of you. My question is what are you going to do to protect women's rights? And I mean, all of them, our right to vote, our, because we've been fighting the SAVE Act, women's reproductive rights, and that goes because we're protecting our rights, our daughters' rights, our future granddaughters, and everything. We've been fighting this. I mean, Roe versus Wade was over 50 years ago. My grandmother had my father and my uncle on her hip in 1919, holding a sign, risking going to jail for the right to vote. And, so we've already fought this crap, and now we're having to do this all over again. And now we're fighting because women cannot even get health care, but yet there's not one law in the book about men. So what are we going to do about this? What are you going to do to protect women? And we are in a state where it is technically a religious state, the LDS Church, that has to put their 2 cents in on every decision to include. Even when marijuana was on the ballot, they were against it until they found out they could make money off of it, and then they were behind it. So what
So
are
your
you going to
question
do?
is, what are we doing to
What are
protect
you going to do
women's
to
rights?
protect us and to help us change this to protect the women of this state?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So just a couple of things that I will note out of the gate. I have always been very consistent that one of the reasons that I am running for Congress is because I have 3 daughters who have fewer rights today than their mother did or their grandmother did. Last night, actually, I was at the Young Democrats meeting where our campaign was fortunate enough to earn their endorsement. And after the campaign speeches, several women in that audience came up to tell me thank you for being the only candidate on stage that centered women's rights as part of the reason why I am doing what I am doing. I think there's some practical things that we can do. We can make sure that access to health care is dependent on the individual's decision and their doctor, full stop. That's who has decisions in making healthcare, the individual and their physician. We can go ahead and get the ERA passed, right? You have a fully blue Congress, you get enough votes to get that across the finish line. I am an active member of the LDS Church, full transparency, and I am a progressive in my policies, which gives me a very unique position to be the bridge builder that brings that community over in support of policies that support women. Utah should be one of the strongest states for women's rights. We were one of the first states to ensure that women had the right to vote, and we have always understood the role that women play in our community. There is no reason why our congressional representative should not be putting the health and strength of women's issues first and forefront in all that they do. It's one of the reasons why I think we have earned the endorsement of the Weber Women's Caucus. Is they know me, we've had these conversations, they know that I am here to go ahead and put their rights and concerns first in my congressional campaign.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. I think that was 2 questions. There's lots of questions going on. I'm going to get to Jerem because I know he's in your. Oh, Jerem just dropped off. Okay. Well, then I'm going to my boss, Jennifer Miller Smith. She's got a question.
And this is to Peter Crosby, right, Mitchell?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I would like progressive questions given to these candidates. And the base of the Progressive Caucus is labor and civil rights. So pick something about civil rights versus justice and comment on it for a minute.
Rights versus justice and comment on it. Okay, human rights are human rights, full stop. And when we look at the current justice system, we need to understand that the justice system as designed is punitive and it is predatory and it is not in the best interests of common Americans. We have a justice system going back, again, we can talk about Reformation here, right? And we can talk about the Reconstruction era post-Civil War and the fact that we put systems into place that ensure there are fundamental differences in how people are treated based off of race and based off of social and economic status. Those are fundamental problems that we have to focus on as progressives in solving from our policy orientation and our value set. We cannot say that we are putting the interests of the everyday person first and foremost if we continue to elevate corporate profits and corporate tax subsidies at the cost of workers. We can't say that we're progressive candidates if we're unwilling to fight for a livable wage, if we're unwilling to fight for universal health care, if we are unwilling to fight for basic rights for everybody, again, regardless of ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, it doesn't matter. Progressive values are the values of the everyday person. We just received the endorsement of the Labor Caucus before this meeting because, again, those are the values that we support and endorse, and those are the values that this campaign is focused on finding real opportunities for change in Congress.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see. Going back to the gallery, look at all these people, 107 people. Wow, this is cool. All right, the final contested race requesting endorsement is CD1. We have Liban Mohammed, Nate Bluen, and Michael Farrell. So get your questions ready, and we'll start with Liban. Angel.
Okay, Liban, we have a race here with one conservative Democrat who has gathered signatures. So if he doesn't make it through convention, he's going to be on the primary ballot, and 4 great progressives, right? 2 of whom have gathered signatures. So what do you think about progressive consolidation to beat the conservative?
It's a tough, but honestly, it's a really great question. First and foremost, I'd like to tell you all a little secret that I've also collected a ton of signatures and believe that I will be making the ballot, which is amazing. And the second thing is I don't want to be the arrogant person that says that we don't believe in progressive consolidation. Ultimately, the objective is to beat Ben and get representation that represents the true values that we have, that represents the working class, that represents, who Sully County is and meets the moment that we haven't had the opportunity to have in the history of Utah. But what I also believe is that candidate that we consolidate behind should be somebody that represents our values and somebody that has not only demonstrated a history of integrity, but also a history of results. And I believe I am that candidate.
Thank you, Liban. Fane Harris, you are next.
It's Fonda Harris, but it's
Fane.
okay.
And this is a question, actually, I don't know if this is able to go to all the candidates, so feel free to chime in the chat. But I have a question specifically about in regards to coalition building. And what that means is how have you successfully built coalition and created policy to successfully change the material conditions, and the keyword is successfully, of the people you have served? And that's whether you're in office or in your own work if you were not an elected official in any capacity. So yeah, that can go to Laban, and that can also go to all the candidates if they want to chime in the chat.
That's going to Laban.
I think it's a wonderful question. Ultimately, to get legislation passed and get things done, one has to put their ego aside, especially if we're in a state like Utah or if you're in Washington, D.C., where a lot of times the politics is not in the favor of the progressive ideology. You have to work with people who think different than you and figure out how to ultimately get the objective done. It's not about headlines. It's not about posturing. It's about creating real material outcomes. And the answer to your question is, when I was at the American Heart Association as their government relations director, 2 times ahead of me with my predecessors, they proposed policies to get CPR requirements in the high schools. They both failed. When I took the mantle as a government relations director, not only did I get it passed, but I got it passed unanimously, being able to sit down and resonate with people who think differently than me. And now every single person who graduates high school in the state of Utah will be equipped with the training they need to 2 to 3x the chances for survival, addressing the #1 cause of death in our state, which is out of hospital cardiac arrest, cardiovascular disease. Next, postpartum Medicaid extension. When I was at the American Heart Association, the first session that I worked with our beloved Rosemary Lesser, who was in this amazing, was an amazing state rep, and an OBGYN, the most qualified person they could ever think of to be running postpartum Medicaid extension. But when we tried, it didn't pass. But the next time, we knew that the ultimate purpose is we want to see this bill get through, ego aside, and shift it over to a Republicans' hands. And today, postpartum Medicaid is not only going to cover you from 60 days, but it's going to cover you all the way up to an entire year. So I think these two examples are a testament to the character that I have and the leadership that I will leave, is doing what it takes to ultimately make the difference. That person.
Thank you, Liban. Wonderful. Okay, one more question. Christiana Johnson.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question. As someone that worked for a lot of big tech companies, can you talk a little bit about how you would specifically hold, a lot of these big tech companies accountable for a lot of the harms that they're causing to the environment, as well as a lot of youth and, just a lot of other problems? And can you also talk about if you would try to oppose new data center development?
Wonderful question. I'll try to answer that at a high level in 2 parts. First and foremost, if elected, I'll be the only person in Congress with big tech experience, and I believe best suited to hold them accountable, not only of the slated candidates in this race, but all the entire 435 members of Congress. With that being said, I worked at Meta specifically on data center sustainability. And when I got that job, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought I made it. I was like, I'm a son of immigrants from Utah in my early 20s. How do I move to the Big Apple, New York City, working at a FANG company? But as I worked and I worked and I worked, I also got to learn and learn and learn. And I learned that it takes 900 Olympic pools of water to cool a given data center at once. I learned that the energy consumption of just Meta's 16 data centers across the entire nation could be enough energy to power 2 million homes. That's more homes than the entire state of Utah. So with that experience, I both understand exactly how we can hold them accountable to the nth degree in a pragmatic manner that actually makes a difference. 100% renewable energy requirements back into the grid, water conservation projects that minimum water neutral, ideally water positive, making sure that we're not passing energy costs onto the ordinary resident in the community, but the people who are causing those increases in costs are taking those costs on. But the idea of a moratorium on data centers entirely, I don't think it's pragmatic, because at the end of the day, I want my hospital to function. I want myself to function. I want a world where we can have technology, but simultaneously holding them accountable in a manner that they've never been before. And what it will take is a person with the expertise that I can bring to the table. And that also goes to minor safety, national privacy law. We're the only wealthy nation that doesn't have one. That doesn't make any sense, and so on and so forth. But I'll save the jargon for you.
Thank
You opened a
Thank you.
soapbox.
I appreciate that. Okay. We're 10 minutes away from the end, and we got 2 more candidates left. So questions for Nate Bluen. Tyler.
Yeah, so my question is going to be pretty passionate, and it's about some information that became public today. And I have tried to reflect on a lot of it, and there's something that is still sticking with me. So I need some reassurance from Nate, and that is about the comment of sexual assault and a sexual assault against a minor. I work in psychiatry. In the last 2 years, I've worked in pediatric psychiatry, and I have seen so many children that are sexually assaulted and live with that with the rest of their lives. So I need to know that as a candidate, the things that you have advocated for and stood for in the state house are not just performative politics, but they're actually who you are deep down.
Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, I feel horrific for these comments that have come out. I mean, obviously, I would say that, but to look back 17 years into the past when I wrote things like that, I don't know what I was thinking. I was in a very different place in my life, and certainly have worked over the last 10 plus years. I've been in politics to right some of those wrongs. I think to overcome some of the things that I said, and I'm just committed to doing the same things that you've seen me do. The person that folks on this call know over the last few years that I've been involved in politics is certainly the person that I am. It is not the person that wrote a whole bunch of really stupid stuff online on these forums I was involved in my early 20s, not long after I'd moved to Utah. So I'm just committed. Like, I'm taking full ownership of those comments. I understand how it's extremely hurtful for folks who've been involved in that space, in particular. And I mean, you won't see me making comments like that or advocating for anything other than what's best for my constituents going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fanny.
Yeah, I have the same question that I gave to Liban to Nate. However, it's with there's another qualifying factor in that. And I think it's important to register to recognize your positionality as a cis white man as well. So when you build coalitions, I think my question to change this to be more specifically to you is, hold on, let me pull it up. How have you successfully built coalition and created policy to successfully change the material conditions of the people you have served without putting the burden on Black and Brown and marginalized folks to educate you specifically?
Thank you. Yeah, so, and I appreciate that. I'm excited to talk policy, and certainly I'm here to hear people's concerns about the comments I made, and I'm not going to shy away from that. But I appreciate that. Over the last couple of years in the state Senate, I've had a couple of bills passed in very similar circumstances to what Liban just described, where I passed a bill through the Senate on an energy issue, on a water issue, and passed unanimously in both of those cases. But the House took them up or didn't take them up because they were putting politics over people and didn't want to consider them. And so the next year, I ran forward with those bills, passed them off to other folks who got them across the finish line, and both of those are now law.
All right. Final question. Tia, you have your hand up. Tia J. I will try to unmute you. Okay, that is Tia is either holding or frozen.
Kenneth.
Kenneth.
Nate, kind of similar to I believe it's Fane's question around like building coalitions, but from your opponents, that there's been a lot of attacks around volatility or getting into online arguments, and my question is, if you are elected to represent us in CD1, how do you see yourself building coalition with people that don't necessarily align with your political viewpoints? How do you take, the passion that you've used to, send a message here in the state Senate, and use that passion to, um, talk to the other side, I guess, about where you stand in a way that isn't as inflammatory or as provocative.
Thanks. Yeah, I see the work that's being done on things like the Epstein files, on some campaign finance issues, on foreign policy issues, where you've seen folks like Ro Khanna work with Thomas Massie across the aisle to address things that I think touch everyone's lives and are absolutely critical to address rebuilding trust in politics right now, which is so important. So I think there are plenty of good examples where we have allies in some of those spaces on issues that transcend the politics, and we're looking at these top bottom issues, these things about the wealthy and powerful having so much influence and challenging them. And that certainly is not just a partisan issue. So I see a lot of opportunities to engage with folks like that in those sorts of ways.
All right. Thank you, Nate. We got 5 minutes, and our last candidate is Michael Farrell, also in CD1. So let's take some questions from Michael. Mustafa, you have a question for Michael.
Yes, it mesmerizes me, Michael, since you are in the legal field. How can we separate, the executive from our judicial when we do not elect our judges to the Supreme Court? Those judges are being put in position by political parties, and their allegiance is for the political party that appointed them, and not for justice, or not justice, for implementing the law as it is.
Yeah, thank you, Mustafa. I love the question. I think, as has been mentioned, I'm running for Congress. Congress is going to be holding the power of the purse. So two ways, and power to investigate. So I think two ways that Congress can get at some of these corrupt justices that we have, like Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. The Supreme Court budget is set by the House. If I get onto the House Ways and Means Committee, fight tooth and nail for that budget is going to be $0. And people are going to fight me on that. And I will bring spotlight to the fact that the Supreme Court continues to scale back and cut down on our civil rights, on women's reproductive rights, on every right that we have. If they don't have a budget, they don't meet, they don't have any clerks, they can't keep ruining this country. So I think that's one way that you can cut back on it. You can really, you spotlight that issue. And then the second way is hearings. We talk about bringing these, secretaries, cabinet officials in before Congress. We should do the same with members. We should do the same with justices at the Supreme Court. And I fully acknowledge that they are going to ignore that request to appear before us, and I will issue contempt orders for them. And we will spotlight the fact that they are corrupt and act like they are better than us. They act like gods. And I will say, not many people agree with me on this one, but Supreme Court justices, they are in their roles for good behavior, not for life, for good behavior. I think being a deeply corrupt kleptocrat who takes yachts and RVs from your rich oligarch buddies, that's not good behavior. So yeah, I mean, I understand that our deeply broken Senate system, they're not going to vote to convict and remove Clarence Thomas, for example, but I would like to make them vote no on removing a man as corrupt as he is. Sunlight cures all. If we had more sunlight illuminating the Epstein class, those rich freaks wouldn't have hurt so many children over the years. So sunlight over these, rich assholes in the Supreme Court, I think that would help a lot.
Word. Michael, thank you. Angel, you have a question.
Hello, Michael.
Hi, Joe.
So I know that progressive is a spectrum, and there's no this is what progressive is. There are various interpretations, even between three different people talking. For me, progressive would, all things equal, if a white man is running against a woman or a person of color and they have the exact same platform and they call themselves a progressive, they would step back and promote someone who was underrepresented. That's my progressive definition, personally. So I know, like with Nate, he's a white man running against a man of color, but he has name recognition, so there's differences there. So I want to know why you are a standout, that you wouldn't be like, oh, look, there's a person of color in the race. I want to promote them.
Yeah, and I appreciate that question. And when I decided to enter into this race, Liban, Louise, and Ava had all declared at that point. I decided to enter this race not overlooking at all the fact that as a white cis hetero man in America, really anywhere in the world, but especially in America, I have an incredible amount of privilege, and yeah, I don't overlook that. I'm not ignoring that fact. I entered this race because I think I can bring a particular expertise that I've been a tax attorney for over 12 years. I can bring that particular expertise to bear in a way that I just didn't see any of the other candidates would be able to bring in. So it really just came down to the knowledge that I have. And I'm not trying to ignore the identitarian issues that you brought up. I'm trying to be as much of an ally as I can, and recognizing the fact that I'm a white cis man, that puts me in an incredible position of privilege. Um, you know, I'm a huge history nerd. I believe a few people mentioned that earlier on this call. One of the strongest advocates for civil rights in this country was Lyndon Baines Johnson, and that man was regularly a huge racist. So I'm just trying to acknowledge that, yes, I understand that is a position of privilege, being a white man, but I'm trying to use that to the best advantage. And I had this expertise that I felt could really, be used in the race and be used in Congress to help people in Utah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. There are no more hands up. It's 8 o'clock. There are lots of comments, and I hope everyone has kind of appreciated this format over a 1 or 2 minute rah-rah speech. So voting members, according to our bylaws, are members that have participated in 2 previous general meetings. And so we take roll so we know who those people are. Our endorsement is not a directive to our caucus. It is a recognition from our caucus. So everyone, no matter how this plays out, get your asses to convention and vote for the candidate that best represents your way of thinking, feeling, needing, whatever it is. Our candidates have made all of their contact information available. They have been very responsive to me. I hope they have been responsive to you. And if some of your questions weren't answered, or you didn't get an opportunity to answer those questions, all that contact information is there, and I urge you to use it and follow up with these candidates before convention. That being said, we are over time. If these next couple of questions are quick and administrative, I will take a question from David and Gail before we leave.
Yeah, mine's administrative. I think I should be a voting member because I've attended a few meetings.
Okay.
But I don't know. I didn't see myself on the list of voting members.
We have a list that isn't public right now, but if you have been to our last couple meetings in the past several months, then it's and I don't know why I can't find the icon I'm looking for right now. But anyway, Uh, David Chappelle. Yep. Okay. And finally, Galen Mustafa.
Yeah, I do not have a question, but I have a suggestion.
Okay.
You know, after a few years of activism in Utah, I found out that the caucuses works alone and everybody works alone. I really think after the convention, we should have a coalition of all the caucuses and all the progressive organizations to make a huge rally for our candidates in Sugar House Park because it's a labor connected park, you know.
Yeah.
And I think we should show our force in numbers in public because really we are taken by granted by the establishment and by the Republicans.
Yeah.
And I really recommend that we start working from now for that rally to to back it, you know, as caucuses, as progressive caucuses, and as progressive, you know, nonprofits in Utah to gather at least, you know, 8,000 people in that park to show that we are to be counted. We are a substantial amount of people that wants a change in the status quo.
Well, I agree with you. Our caucus has been hyper active in activism, and we've been trying to expose uh, what we stand for and what we're up to from a political standpoint. And when we show up, we have tens of thousands of people coming to the No Kings rallies, to the other rallies and protests that we have. But there's always room for more coalition building, more exposure, and more accessibility. My commitment and my goal in talking with people is to really demystify uh, getting involved in politics and helping people feel empowered beyond their vote. And I think this year we had an amazing turnout at caucus night for delegates, because in the past we would barely fill half of our delegates, and this year uh, I think we really had a huge impact showing up at all these rallies and getting people involved. And we will continue to do that. The Salt Lake City Caucus, Progressive Caucus, meets monthly as well, and so we can talk further about possibly some rallies and events in Sugar House Park. My goal and our goal as the state Progressive Caucus is to create other uh, caucuses. I know we're firing one up in Iron County. Uh, we're developing one in Davis County, and the goal is really to give the infrastructure to the entire state that empowers progressives across the state to organize and get involved. So, with that, we are way out of time. I talk way too much. There are no hands up. I love you all. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for getting involved. And please, please come back next month. So, we have a protest at the governor's mansion right after convention. I don't have the graphics right here, but follow our Instagram. We're going to go down there and protest ICE. And then we're also co-sponsoring a May Day rally, May 1st, 2 p.m. at Washington Square. And not only celebrating our working class, but also offering the opportunity to educate yourself on organizing and taking the power back from the industrialists. Steve, our vice chair, he has a message for us.
Yeah, just real quick. One of the complaints that the state party has heard consistently is whenever they hold events, the entry fee is way beyond accessibility for the working class. They're often $200. So
Yep.
on April 24th, the night before convention, there is a $20 entry fee event that gets you access and whatever they have for charcuterie. I don't know, it might include the first drink, but it's designed to make sure that it is for everyone to be able to take part in. So please hit the state website, get on. I know it has a name, it's like the starting line or something. It's Boozing with Susan. We're gonna go hang out. It's put on by the vice chair, and it's gonna be a great time.
Great. Thank you for raising that up. All right. I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Love you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.